Welcome back. This is a special edition of Modern Business, where our guest host, Zack Fishman, brings us millennials in franchising. Our community is about sharing knowledge and tools that help us achieve our goals in business and beyond. This is Millennial Monthly on Modern Business.
Welcome to the October edition of the Millennial Monthly, everyone. As always, my name is Zack Fishman, and I'm going to be your host for today. First, I wanted to give a big thank you, as always, to Ryan Hicks of Modern Business for featuring our segment here once again for yet another month. This month, I'll be talking with Ben Davis of the Gents Place, who is actually the founder and CEO. I'll be asking him a couple questions pertaining to really his experience as a millennial C-suite in the franchise space. Hopefully, these stories will be able to help all of you listeners out there learn a little bit more about what it takes to actually be successful in the franchise space and to learn a little bit from a fresh new face that's really been making some noise in the franchise space in general. Now, let's get started. So first, let's just say hello to Ben. Ben, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, so today, guys, I think we're going to ask Ben a series of 5 questions here. And of course, feel free to sound off in the comments on social media. Ryan Hicks and myself will always post this on LinkedIn and Facebook, and you guys will be able to find it on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all the other usual suspects to be able to listen to this. Reminder to please subscribe to Modern Business of Ryan Hicks to also listen to what Ryan has going on. Ben is also featured on a couple videos that Ryan has been running as well, so a lot of really cool stuff coming on the horizon. So Ben, let's get started. So I guess I'd love to start just by hearing a little bit more about Gents Place and how you really got the idea to get the business off the ground.
Yeah, sure. It was a crazy time. So 2008 is when I started my business, and I got my SBA loan 2 weeks before Lehman Brothers collapsed. And so I know we've got relatively young audience here, but 2008 Lehman Brothers is still the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history. So I literally got a loan right before they collapsed, and my banker even called me before I could start spending the money and said, hurry up and start spending it before we take it back from you. So that was my entry into entrepreneurship. Very crazy time. I was coming off of a startup. I was a 5th employee there, and we grew it to a little over 100 people over 3.5 years. It's now a public company, Goosehead Insurance. And I say I got my honorary Harvard MBA and working there. I worked for a Harvard MBA, a brilliant guy that really taught me what I needed to know in growing a business and managing people and leading people. And I was ready to go and strike out on my own. So decided to enter the men's grooming business industry. I had absolutely no experience in. I still haven't cut hair to this day. Actually, I did one video where I had a haircutting contest. I lost miserably, but never done it for money. And so I was real passionate about the industry because I looked at the industry as an opportunity to sell emotions and not haircuts, to sell feelings to our guests, positivity, confidence, and empowerment. And so I didn't really think of it as a traditional haircut business as many other people might in this industry. So I took a leap of faith in a bad economy and without any experience, and jumped right in and opened our doors in December of 2008.
Love it. And I think that a lot of the folks on here, no matter if you are young or if you've been in the franchise space for a long time, probably have heard stories like this. And I think that this is the first time I've actually heard Ben's story. So I appreciate you sharing that. I really think that that's kind of a really interesting spin on what it means to actually become a successful franchisor. So, and I really appreciate you sharing that. So next, I just kind of wanted to go through what your vision looks like relative to a lot of the other legacy brands in the franchise space. I know that for folks who may be listening that are not really as familiar with the franchise space, there are a lot of brands that I'm sure that you guys have heard of, like McDonald's, Golden Corral, and the like, that have really have been around for a long time. And I think that one of the great things about new and young people like Ben coming into the space is that you're able to kind of put a fresh look on what it means to be a franchisor. So I guess, Ben, what I'm wondering is how has your millennialism, or the fact that you are a really young guy, helped you differentiate your brand from all the other brands that are really in the haircutting space, like all the brands that are owned by Regis and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, I think franchising in general can get a bad rap if the stereotype plays out that everything is 100% standardized. It's all the same. There's no thinking involved. And there's not any kind of differentiation amongst the competitors or even from store to store. And so I think millennials these days are looking for really dynamic, purpose-driven businesses to spend their money with. And franchising can be a great vehicle if you use it in the right way. So for us, franchising is a capital strategy to get locations open across the country, partnering with entrepreneurs. If I had $150 million in the bank, could I do it myself? Absolutely. But our passion, our purpose in franchising is to get locations open by also creating more entrepreneurs at the same time. I have a belief that there's a lot of people that are sitting on the sidelines going, oh man, it'd be so cool to open my own business, or one day I'm going to do it, or I'm kind of scared, or I'm not sure if I have the skill set. I want to bring those people that are really passionate about doing their own thing, that have developed some great skill sets and some capital. And I want to pull them in from off the sidelines and get them into the game of running their own business. And so that's my big passion in franchising. It allows us by, using, or by the franchisees using their own money, it allows us to grow quite a bit quicker. From a differentiation perspective, what are we doing kind of different in the franchising model is we really fundamentally believe we're in a totally different industry than our competitors. It's in their name. There's salon for men's, and there's men's salons, and there's fine barber shops, and there's upscale fine salons. It is right there in their business name, exactly what they do. The Gents Place is a different animal entirely. We're in the business of selling emotions to our guests. It's a place that delivers on 3 core brand promises. One is to provide highly personalized services. 2 is to provide ultra premium experiences, the next level, the top shelf, kind of better than what everyone else is providing. And the third, which is really unique to us, is to create and foster an influential community of gentlemen. We are inside communities. We are embedded within them. We're building those communities and connecting like-minded people and fostering those relationships. And that's really the magic of what we do on a day-to-day basis, and helps us achieve that positivity, confidence, and empowerment that we're looking for. And so I think when you have those elements into this business, it may look quite a bit different than your stereotypical franchise. 100%. Nothing against McDonald's, one of the most successful organizations in the world. Do we have standards in place? Absolutely. Do we have turnkey systems? Absolutely. But we want you to feel like this is the neighborhood coming together, sharing experiences with like-minded gentlemen. And I think that's what we've achieved over the last 10 years.
Absolutely. And I think that, and folks, for the people who have really been on and listening with us for a while, I would say that Ben is certainly a little bit more on the mature side when it comes to brands and how much the brand has progressed and how many units are open and kind of his experience in the past. I'm sure you guys can all tell by that explanation, but I think that it's really cool to kind of hear how different we as young people really think about it relative to, our parents or our parents' parents and things of that nature. And I think that it's really important to understand that, having an emotional connection and feeling like an authenticity is so often a theme that we talk about here on the show. And it really seems like that the Gents Place really allows that to bleed through in every way, which I think is really important to actually being successful. So thanks, Ben, for running through that. So number 3, kind of going off of what you were discussing in terms of getting people off of the sidelines and getting them kind of into owning their own business. I guess really my follow-up question to that is that do you actually try and engage with fellow millennials to actually get out and own a Gents Place? And if so, how are you finding those people? And if you aren't doing that, what is your reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a financial qualification that can't be ignored in this business. It does cost $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in some cases to open a location. Now, the bank typically does finance about 20% of that. You still need a couple $100,000 to make this thing work. And so for us, our target expands and kind of cuts through any age demographic. In that regards, we need people that have the funding necessary to open locations. With that said, what we're seeing is a lot of millennials may not quite have the funding worked out, but they can partner with somebody who does. And the millennial is, even though they may not have a couple $100,000, they've got business experience, they're purpose driven, they know about building culture, they know about how consumers think that are coming in and buying our services. We've got a massive 20-something crowd that buys memberships from us. Our memberships start at $40 a month in many markets and go all the way to $8,000 a year. And so tapping into that knowledge that millennials have, that maybe a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old person who does have the economic wherewithal to open a location, I think that's the big opportunity for us and our business and franchising to get millennials kind of into the game. Because there's value there in them understanding the consumer market that, frankly, maybe a 50-year-old man or woman doesn't really understand. We've got a lot of franchisees that are coming to us saying, what's Instagram? I've heard people are using that, right? And it's a primary recruitment vehicle for our staff and for consumers. Like, yeah, it'd be really helpful to have somebody on your team that has that stuff nailed down.
100%. And so, and I think that's also obviously one of the challenges and again, I think that when it comes to social media and Instagram, and especially with you guys being such a visual business and relying on that so much to actually recruit people, it's so interesting how the divide happens. And in addition to that, kind of based off of what you were saying, we are really seeing a really big trend in kind of it's like the mom and pop resurgence, except it's kind of in a different spin. Is that the dad and the son, or the mom and the sister, or the mom and the daughter, or whatever, or a mixture of that, are going in and actually owning businesses together. And that's kind of what we're seeing, is that because millennials so understand what it takes to actually get down and hustle and get on social media, and especially when it's visual businesses like what you guys do, or a food concept or something of that nature, it's so important to be able to have somebody who has the business acumen and who has the financial capital, but also at the same time somebody who understands and buys into the vision that you're trying to really accomplish. So that all makes sense. And folks, this really isn't an exception. This is definitely a business that might be a little bit more on the expensive side for a millennial, but millennials certainly have their place in terms of actually playing a role in making a Gents Place successful. So that's awesome. So kind of based off of what we were talking about with the memberships and such, let's go into customers for a moment here. I imagine that a lot of your customers are millennials, but how are you guys really going about finding them aside from Instagram, as you kind of talked about?
Yeah, I mean, social media is huge for us, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Google on from a paid search standpoint. We're out there looking for people that share a belief system with us, that when you look and feel your best, you perform your best. That how you show up to the world and to yourself matters and is your personal brand. And that we at the Gents Place are here to help manage that personal brand, help be part of your success story. And people share a lot of information on social media and kind of raise their hand and say, hey, I'm that person. I'm either that person because I follow brands that kind of believe in something similar, or just through patterns, just online patterns that they have. And so we're looking for those people. We're looking for people, that are obviously searching for a men's haircut right there in our zip code on Google. So those are going to be our primary methods. It goes like this for any business. And many business owners will tell you, like the best gift you can give me is a referral. The best clients are referrals from existing clients. And we're no exception. A happy member that tells somebody else at the office, or tells their brother or their dad, or their business partner, that happy member telling somebody else, and that person coming in, they're already pre-wired, they are pre-sold, they are excited those are going to be our biggest vehicle. And so what do we do about it? And we're actually putting a lot of time, energy, and effort into this. It goes back to one of those brand pillars of providing a personalized service. Is we are building a very robust membership management program and putting resources behind it where we are touching our existing members more often than our competitors, whether it's phone calls, whether it's handwritten cards, whether it's gifts. We're touching them more and more and more, knowing that deepening those relationships is going to generate more referrals for us. And so that's a strategic initiative for us. It's just the right thing to do. People have been with us for 3, 4, 5, 10 years as a member. We need to be taking care of them and reaching out and checking on them. But certainly that will generate some additional business for us and the right business. We could be 100% referral, any business, right? Could be 100% referral and you wouldn't have to advertise on Facebook and Instagram. We'd all sign up for that. And that's a big focus for us going forward.
Absolutely. And I think that especially when there are brands like you guys that really have people talking online and all of that, it kind of makes life a little bit easier. But again, one thing to remember, folks, is that no matter if you're one of the sexier brands like Gents Place, or if you're a service-based brand, one thing to always remember, especially with the millennial crowd, is that authenticity is king. And I think that Ben certainly has that going within his brand extremely well. I think that millennials are very much drawn to honesty and obviously, of course, being data-driven. Ben has a very unique model when it comes to being subscription-based, and I think that data, and from what I've heard from folks, and this is actually the first time I've ever talked to Ben before, but it's certainly data has shown that there is a place for that in the men's hair care space, and I think that data has really shown that, and I think that that's why millennials believe in it, and I think that that's a cool thing to be able to start a trend that not really a lot of folks in the space are currently doing right now, and we're kind of pessimistic about, but obviously it's working pretty damn well. So that's great. So Ben, I appreciate that. And the last question that I had for you before I let you go is actually kind of surrounding about a lesson that I think that a lot of people can learn on our show here, is really about when you first started out as a young franchisor. What is one thing that you wish you knew that can kind of be a warning here for folks that are listening that are first starting out, or even mature brands that are reemerging that may be trying to do things in a little bit more of a modern way? What is one thing that you wish you knew when you started out that you'd like to warn the folks on the show about so they don't make the same mistake?
Yeah, I've actually given this a lot of thought because I'm asked that question frequently from new franchisors. I've had several friends that have started franchising their business after me and have asked me that same question. Hey, what mistakes have you made? What can I avoid? What should I do? Who should be my first hire? And I look at franchising as kind of fundamentally its own thing. Running a men's grooming business is a totally different business than franchising a men's grooming business. There's more similarities between franchising a Subway and franchising a Gents Place than it is running a Gents Place and franchising one. And so when you look at it that way, franchising it's a marketing company, it's a training company, it's an operations company. You're training the trainer. And so when you think about resources that you need to add when you're getting into growing your business, when you're just starting out as a franchisor, I think you're going to be naturally inclined to sell, and hire as many salespeople and go out and award licenses. And I would caution any new franchisor in putting too many resources in that bucket when you don't have the training and operations resources to support and really back up your sales pitch. And so I've been in business for 10 years. I've got operations expertise. I have people that have been with me for 10 years. When you're, as a candidate of being a franchisee, looking at a franchisor, do they have the operational and training resources to support you to make sure that that you can learn the business and that you learn best practices on an ongoing basis? So when people ask me what the first hire should be, what should I do is invest heavily in training and operations. Even if you don't have a franchise sold, you need to be ready, because those first few franchisees that open up have got to work. You've got to get validation, and that's going to come from over servicing them early on. And you're going to need the resources to make that happen.
I love it, because I think that that's something that every single person that comes on the show says something around that. And I think that it's super cool to know that people that are on the younger side in the franchise space understand that operations and training is really the backbone, of a successful franchisor. I mean, the field franchise consultants are basically the people that are sleeping in the worst hotels and are traveling at the worst hours, but they're the people that make the franchise go. And so it's really cool to hear that obviously Gents Place has that exact same mentality. And folks, I would definitely heed those words for certain, because I think that they could not be more true. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you taking the time today for us and making this an awesome October edition of Millennial Monthly. Folks, again, please remember to subscribe to Ryan's podcast. It's called Modern Business, MODRN, Business with Ryan Hicks, to actually listen into other shows that we've had in the past, and also keep a lookout for Ryan and I, and Ben, of course. We'll be sharing this on social media, on LinkedIn and Facebook, so be sure to check that out and share it with your friends and family, so people can hear a little bit more about some of the lessons that Ben has to give you guys. So Ben, I really appreciate your time, and thanks again, everybody.
Zach, thank you very much.